Welcome back, everybody. Today, I got a special treat for you. We're going to be looking at Fire Warrior. It's a novel based off of that truly epic first-person shooter PS2 video game, also titled Fire Warrior. And I'm sure you all heard of that game, right? So as popular as that game was, I'm sure the novel's just as good. But before we get into that, I got a little history with this book. Rather, a history obtained in this book. You see, while I was doing my normal shopping at half-price books, I already had a stack of Warhammer books I found. And lastly, I saw Fire Warrior on the shelves. It was only $5, but I already had a stack of books I was going to buy, so I figured I'll put it off to my next paycheck. Of course, next time I show up, it's already gone. So out of curiosity, I go to eBay to see if I can find it. And I did. For $100. I don't know if it was a scam or if this book really goes for that much. I mean, you could get the ebook on the Black Library for, I think, $8. Suffice to say, I didn't get it at the time. But a couple months later, I found it at half-price books again, and I bought it the instant I saw it. So for a book that sells for so much on eBay, and it's based on a PS2 first-person shooter that I'm sure everybody heard of. Although, let's be honest, you didn't know it existed until I mentioned it. So the book must be worth it, right? Well, let's get into that. This book was written by Simon Spurrier. I'm pretty sure I said that name right. He's written a few short stories for the Black Library, such as On Mournful Wings, which is part of the Crucible War anthology, and Elucidium, which is part of What Price Victory anthology. That dumb name sounds familiar. He's also written a background book called Xenology, which is pretty much a big fluff book on alien races. It sounds interesting. And he's written the Lord of the Night novel. But he's also been a longtime comic book writer, one of his latest works being part of the X-Men Legacy Volume 2. But enough backstory on the writer. If you weren't able to tell by the name of the book, Fire Warrior, this book is based off the Tau, which really should be pronounced Tao, but people say Tau. And there's not many books that focus mainly on the Tau. So I'm sure all you Tau fans got really excited after I just mentioned this book. Well, just calm down. No, really, calm down. Because although I am a fan of the Tau, I do have my own Tau army on the tabletop. This is one of the dumbest books I've ever read. But for now, let's just talk about the story in this book. Our main character is a young fire warrior called Caius. And he is the son of a great Tau warrior. In his entire life, he's kind of lived in his father's shadow. He's the kind of character that has no confidence in himself, and he has this great legacy to live up to. And he always feels like he's always letting people down by not being as good as his dad. So right off the bat, you're probably thinking he's going to be a very whiny, annoying character in the book. Well, you're only half right. You see, although he does have this insecurity problem, he does end up to be this beast of a killing machine. In fact, when he's in battle, he kind of changes into another person. And you might be calling Mary Sue on this, but it's actually not a Mary Sue complex in this book. You see, a Mary Sue is a character who just does everything perfectly. Whatever problems they're presented with, their specific skills are perfect for solving those problems without any issue whatsoever. And in their stories, they just seem to be absolutely perfect. In this case, it's not that the character's skills are perfect for solving the problem. It's that everybody else in this book that is not the main character is an incompetent moron. All the enemies he fights just don't know what they're doing. And if you think I'm exaggerating, there's this one scene. I'm going to tell you this one scene. He is in a room fighting against several Space Marines. And he is completely outgunned. So what does he do? He jumps out from cover, runs right towards one of the Space Marines while the second Space Marine is shooting at the guy. Of course, the second Space Marine, you know, a Space Marine, the elite soldiers of the Imperium, the Space Marines who put even the greatest human veterans to shame with their skills, could not hit this guy. In fact, he was hitting the ground behind this guy while he was running. And then Caius ends up running between the legs of that first Space Marine. And then that first Space Marine gets shot up by that second Space Marine because the second Space Marine just decided to keep holding down on the trigger. and continue following the Fire Warrior as he ran through his buddy's legs. I mean, come on, the Looney Tunes don't even go that far. And this isn't really an isolated incident. Every major battle that should be a problem for this guy is easily solved because the problem itself, whoever he's facing, just doesn't have the mental capacity to stop him. It's so frustrating. And I know it's based off a video game, which I haven't played, but really I'm kind of morbidly curious on playing that now. And the main character has to survive, because I'm sure in the video game he was also overpowered. But they even give him a boss fight near the end of the book, where the boss has 4 different forms. And the only way to beat him is to find that one little weak spot. My goodness, this book was dumb. Oh, and as a side note, I do know a lot about the Tau weaponry, but I can tell you this one thing. Their pulse rifles, their main weapon, even when shot in conjunction with multiple pulse rifles, cannot melt the front of a Lemon Rust tank. I don't care how many of those rifles you got. Although they have decent strength, you cannot melt the front of that tank. Alright. Let me calm down. Story. Alright. Okay, so like I mentioned, Caius, he's a rookie, and his squad is being sent down to rescue one of the Ethereals. Ethereals being their leader class in the Tau Empire, who was captured by an Imperial governor. And as Caius is dropped down onto this planet, he's separated from the rest of his squad. And of course, since he's the main character from the video game, and he's going to be the main character in this book, he's the one that's able to rescue the Ethereal on his own. And it's in doing this where he finds his true calling, that he's just a killing machine. Although we already discussed it, it's not really him. Everybody's dumb. But you find out that that entire battle, the entire war that was set up, under the pretense of the Imperial governor kidnapping the Ethereal, and actually wanted the Tau to rescue him to start this battle, is part of a greater chaos plot. That's right. The minions of chaos are also getting in on this. And throughout the book, we're introduced to more characters. But of course, the large majority of the characters are just there to die about a page after they're introduced. In fact, if you want to know somebody's going to die, the moment they're introduced, the book goes into their backstory for about a paragraph or 2, maybe even 3, and then they're instantly killed. I mean, can you really imagine how annoying that is? Wait, what?
Oh, allow me to show them. Gokulito, the Choppyreviewer, often spends time editing videos to bring the glory of the Black Library to the masses.
Wait.
And then he got shot in the head.
What?
For years, he has wondered why he has poured coffee from an empty coffee pot into his cup. And then he got blown up by a grenade.
Really? Alright, I get it. You weren't happy when I phased you out.
And then an anvil fell on him.
No! Oh, okay. So, yeah. It was kind of like that. So throughout the book, while Caius is slowly going crazier and crazier through his bloodlust, you can't help but get the feeling that maybe he's tainted by chaos, since they're already present. Or is it really because he's his father's son? One of the things, which is probably the only thing I liked about the book, surprisingly, was his daddy issues. You see, Caius is driven further and further to become more and more violent because he's trying to live up to his father's legacy. And of course, you're given hints that his father's legacy was pretty violent as well. And Caius becomes a character that, although he does keep complaining, mainly that he's not good enough to be his father's son, or that he's tired of people looking at him as his father's son instead of just as himself, it doesn't stop him from actually doing stuff. Like in other stories and movies you might see where you get a really whiny character, they usually sit around and pout. At least Caius doesn't do that. And the fact that this is slowly making him go insane, actually that was a nice touch. I'm not sure how accurate this book is to the game, so right now I don't really care. I'm just judging this book on its own. So when you factor in the story, so when you're dealing with the Tau fighting the Imperium and then dealing with the little plot twist with the chaos, and the fact that everybody in this story can't do anything except for Caius, in the very annoying reverse Mary Sue effect this book has, I don't even know if there's a name for that. this book was beyond annoying for me. But on a very, very base level, part of it was kind of fun. Almost in a, this is so dumb, my brain is shutting down, and everything else that seems to be prettier. In the same fashion that if somebody jingled keys in front of my eyes after reading this book, I wouldn't be entertained. But if you're a really hardcore Tau player and you really want to know the story with the Tau, I'm sorry, but I myself did not like this. Perhaps you'll like all the little wackiness this book has, but it's not for me. So really, this is one more thing for me to do with this. And that's my opinion. Take it for what it's worth. Man, it's a dumb book.